A snowstorm blew into the mid-Atlantic states on Tuesday, causing dozens of accidents on icy roads, prompting school closures and stoking worries about possible power outages. According to Associated Press, the heaviest snowfall up to 10 inches was expected in parts of Virginia and West Virginia. Ice accumulations could range from a glaze in Kentucky and West Virginia to a half-inch in some higher elevations of West Virginia and the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia, the National Weather Service said. Power outages and tree damage were likely in places with heavy ice buildups. Governor Glenn Youngkin declared a state of emergency in schools and government offices were closed Tuesday. State police reported dozens of accidents, including 4 injuries. The Department of Transportation advised the public to stay off the roads. In southern West Virginia, multiple crashes temporarily shut down several major highways. Smith's Towing and Truck Repair responded to at least 15 calls, mostly from tractor-trailer drivers whose vehicles got stuck in the snow and ice on Interstate 64 in Greenbrier County near the Virginia border, dispatcher Kelly Pickles said. With snow and the forecast for the Washington, D.C. area, the Office of Personnel Management recommended that federal workers leave their offices early on Tuesday afternoon. Schools in and around Baltimore also let out early. Appalachian Power, which serves 1 million customers in West Virginia, and Tennessee, said it had requested 700 additional workers from neighboring utilities to assist with problems. About 65 Virginia National Guard soldiers were at facilities along the Interstate 95 and State Route 29 corridors and in southwest Virginia to support the storm response, Guard officials said. Another 20 soldiers and members of the Virginia Defense Force were in support roles. Elon Musk has long railed against the U.S. government, saying a crushing number of federal investigations and safety programs have stymied Tesla, his electric car company, and its efforts to create self-driving automobiles. Now, Musk's close relationship with President Donald J. Trump means many of those federal headaches could vanish. An Associated Press review of federal probes and safety programs that are most at risk found that the Trump administration could quickly nix crash investigations into Tesla's partially automated vehicles, a U.S. Department of Justice criminal probe examining whether Musk and Tesla have overstated their cars' self-driving capabilities, and a government mandate to report crash data on vehicles using technology like Tesla's autopilot. The consequences of such actions could prove dire, say safety advocates who credit such federal investigations and recalls with saving lives. We went out and bought a car, a Model 3, and said, well, let's try it ourselves. We're going to drive it around and see what it does, said Dan O'Dowd, founder of the Dawn Project, which describes itself as campaigning to ban unsafe software from safety-critical systems. It simply failed, O'Dowd says. Drive it maybe for an hour or so, it's going to almost always fail. It's going to do something very dumb and unsafe. Let's not just call it dumb unsafe through that period of time. And that's when I said, this thing's got to come off the road. The White House and Musk began waging an unbridled war against the federal government, freezing spending and programs while sacking a host of career employees, including prosecutors and government watchdogs typically shielded from such brazen dismissals without cause. The Trump administration has not yet declared any actions that could benefit Tesla or Musk's other companies. However, snuffing out federal investigations or jettisoning safety initiatives would be much easier task than their audacious assault on regulators and the bureaucracy.
So we did some statistical analysis on the tests and looked through them and said, no, basically as best we can tell, it fails about every 8 minutes. It does something stupid, like drive across the yellow line or run a stoplight or run a red light or stop sign, sorry. It turns, goes right through a stop sign, doesn't look at a yield sign, tries to drive into oncoming traffic. About every 8 minutes, and that's when it was like, okay, this thing's just terrible. I mean, this thing should never be on the road.
Full self-driving blows straight past a stopped school bus with its red lights flashing and stop sign extended, and runs down a child-sized mannequin crossing the road.
There's a parked truck.
Oh my God.
And it just hits it.
So I commissioned some real studies to really test it. So we went out and bought a car, a Model 3, and said, well, let's try it ourselves. We're going to drive it around and see what it does. And we confirmed that it simply failed. You can drive it maybe for an hour or so. It's going to almost always fail. It's going to do something very dumb and unsafe. Let's not just call it dumb, unsafe through that period of time. And that's when I said, this thing's got to come off the road. They're basically saying, yep, we're getting sued. We lose $1 million here, $1 million there. We got $1 trillion off this product. They're valuing full self-driving at $1 trillion. So if they've got to pay off a few $2 or $5 million lawsuits, how many can they pay off in 5 million into $1 trillion? 200,000, I think. I mean, they could take 200,000 lawsuits, and it's worth it.
Where is he? Come on up here, Elon. He created the first major American car company in generations and his rocket company.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
So this is actually a very important point that I think is not talked about enough. That laws and regulations are immortal. They don't die. Humans die, but laws and regulations can last forever. So if year after year there are more laws and regulations passed and more regulatory bodies created, eventually everything will be illegal. Now, historically, what has cleared away the cobwebs of regulation has been war. Now, we'd prefer not to have a war. So in order to have civilization function without war, you have to actively eliminate laws and regulations. So you have to have basically a garbage collection process for rules and regulations